Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Republic of the Geek. I'm Eric, the Retro Reviewer, and this time I'm doing Nightmare on Elm Street. Hey guys, so this time I'm doing Nightmare on Elm Street, the movie that came out in 1984 and scared the hell out of a whole bunch of people for a whole bunch of years. And still to this day, actually, with the 2010 remake, has actually kind of gotten a new life breathed into it. Just too bad the 2010 remake was not that good. Thanks, Hollywood. But anyways, I'm talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, the first movie in the installment of 8 movies to date. From Nightmare on Elm Street 2, 3, 4, 5, Freddy's Dead, which was the 6th installment, the 7th installment being New Nightmare, and the 8th installment being Freddy vs. Jason. So when talking about the first movie, this movie was iconic. It actually finally took a new idea because Halloween had already been released, Friday the 13th had already come out, and it was about basically just mimes walking around killing people. Now, I have no problem with that, but this time around, they actually dived into the fact that dreams could actually kill you. And of course, when you have that kind of concept, you have to have someone to back that concept. Wes Craven actually was the one who created the idea. He actually did movies like The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left. So he was pretty established by the time he had actually started to go around to doing the idea for Nightmare on Elm Street. But in 1984, it actually came to be. It came to pass. He actually took the idea of when you dream, whatever happens in the dream can eventually kind of end your life. He actually created a character that is so iconic and has been talked about in many facets. Ronald Reagan actually, if you didn't know this, Ronald Reagan actually, in one of his speeches, to an entire group or room full of old people who had no idea what he was talking about, actually referenced Nightmare on Elm Street. So to say that this movie has actually stood the test of time is an understatement. They actually casted the person to portray the iconic horror movie monster, which would be known as, in the original movie, Fred Krueger. He would only adapt Freddy, and they made the name longer as the movies went on in the series. But Fred Krueger was portrayed by actor Robert Englund, who had had fame, a little bit of fame, in a sci-fi series called V. And that was kind of his start. He had also done a couple of other B-rated horror movies beforehand. But when he took on the role of Fred Krueger, that changed the entire game. Fred Krueger was actually, they kind of lightly touched around it, but he was a child molester and a child killer. Now, when the movie first came out, there was a big news story about teachers in a school molesting children. So they kind of soft-pedaled around that and didn't really want to talk about it because they didn't want to get the movie completely destroyed before it ever hit the theaters. Once it hit the theaters and people started taking, word of mouth, people were taking people on top of people in drones to go see this movie, it made a successful first weekend box opening. As far as I think they made $14 million in their first weekend, which back in 1984 was a lot of money. You would think today $14 million is not really that much, but back in that time period, it was a lot of money. So then, of course, the whole, looking at that movie and watching that movie as a kid scared the hell out of me. I didn't want to go to sleep. There was sleepless nights where I would stay up until the sunlight came out outside and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, it's safe to go to sleep now. But Wes Craven, when he created Fred Krueger, actually made it to a point to where, up until, let's say, the sweater that he wears in the movie, the Christmas sweater is what I like to call it, but the red and green colors in the sweater, Wes Craven did his homework, his research. He actually went and looked at what two colors side by side is not appealing to the eye, that it actually kind of makes your eyes strain a little bit, and those were the two colors. So he automatically when he researched, he knew how he wanted to appeal to audiences and how graphic and horrific he wanted to make Fred Krueger. Of course, being burned and having a razor claw, because Wes Craven has also stated in interviews that he was looking for, you know, you had Michael Myers who had a butcher knife, you had Jason Voorhees who had a machete, or any other tool that he could find in a shack. But you would sit there, and Wes Craven was sitting there thinking, like, what could I use? I don't want to use a butcher knife. I don't want it to be in like a slasher flick like everything else, where like some teens, you know, do what they do or whatever, and it's like, and they're dead. He wanted to make it more kind of methodical. So he looked at it and he went back and saw, in the beginning of time, like you had animals that would kind of reach in to get their food in like caves and everything, and they had the claws and they would reach in. He was like, oh, well, why didn't I think of that? Plus there was also on set, there was a cat that kept sitting here doing this with its claw, you know, trying to grab something. And he was like, why didn't I think about that? So then they made the iconic glove with the finger knives, is what they actually stated it as in the first movie being. Once that was all coming together, plus you had Robert Englund with his sinister way of portraying and method acting, it was done deal. You also had 4 counterparts in the movie, plus the parents, which were played by John Saxon and Ronnie Blakely, who were the parents of the main character, the main protagonist in Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy Thompson. You also had Rod, Tina, which were the 2 friends, plus in the movie, when you watch the movie, plus if you've already seen the movie, Tina actually is portrayed by a Janet Leigh type of character. Like when you see her and when you first watch the first couple of minutes of the movie, you think she's going to be the survivor. You think she's going to be the final girl. And they completely flip it on its head, and she becomes Janet Leigh. She is the first to meet her demise by Fred Krueger. You also have a character named Glenn in the movie, which if you've been hiding under a rock, you would not know this, but everybody does. Nightmare on Elm Street was the first movie that introduced Johnny Depp into the Hollywood eye. Johnny Depp has done so many movies, so many great movies, but then you've got everybody has those burps in their careers. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Lone Ranger, just to name a few. Sorry, Johnny. Just horrible movies. But anyways, it actually introduced Johnny Depp into the Hollywood eye and, you know, started his career. Sadly to say, not too many people in that movie actually did as well as Johnny Depp or have done as well as Johnny Depp have. But that's needless to say, you actually have a lot of horror movies that start out that nobody really sees, or they become cults, that actually have main movie stars in them that actually go on to do things better their career. Friday the 13th presented us with Kevin Bacon. Now, he had been in Hollywood for a while, but that was a movie that he had done as a role. Corey Feldman, again in Friday the 13th, actually did some stuff with his career, i.e. Goonies. You also have a couple of other actors that had good careers, but nothing that was like as iconic, I guess, as the career of Johnny Depp. George Clooney was in Return to Horror High, which a lot of people have never seen, but he was actually in that movie, and he went on to do, you know, ER, and well, we're not going to talk about Batman and Robin now, are we, George? Because you kind of screwed that up too for us, didn't you? Thanks, buddy. Anyways, this movie has actually, to this day, is still getting put in syndication on television, as far as like during October, like for Halloween. It actually still has a pretty good shelf life. A lot of the people that I know, as far as like friends of mine, still own this movie in one way, shape, or form. They have released multiple versions of it in Film on DVD, Blu-ray. They actually, as the series went on, had spawned a television show called Freddy's Nightmares. But this was the mainstay. This is what started the whole trend of, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street fandom and success. It's kind of funny to me that you would sit there back in the 80s and you would see kids begging their parents during Halloween, be like, I want a Freddy Krueger costume. Yeah, let's go ahead and go get candy from houses and dress up like a child molester. And you're a kid. Like, does that really make sense? Because it doesn't to me. It's like, wow. But that was the hottest selling costume for the longest time. And it's just like, good job, parents. This basic video is just basically just bashing everybody and like How about a good idea? Parents letting your kids go out trick-or-treating in a child murderer costume, you know, it's like, do you do your research? I don't think so. Anyways, I digress. But the other movies that followed in this series after this was kind of the initial kind of statement film. They actually put it out there and they're like, let's see what you think. People fell in love with it. People were taking, like I said, friends of friends of friends and family, and just drones of people came to the theaters and actually watched this movie. And still to this day, people will still put it in their DVD player, Blu-ray player, and watch it, and still get scared because he is that iconic. But other than that, we had a thing happen 3 years ago, 2015, August of 2015. We actually lost Wes Craven. He actually passed away, and I was very sad being a fan of this series and a fan of all of his movies that he's actually done, even the bad ones. Like, Wes Craven was an amazing director, and he couldn't do wrong in my eyes. But he actually passed away August of 2015, and, you know, it kind of, as far as being a horror fan or just, you know, horror in general, fans of the genre, everybody kind of felt that loss. So it was sad to see him go, but, you know, that's life. Nobody escapes time. I'm just kind of, you know, I kind of wish he was still around to maybe give us Scream 27, you know, because, I mean, he did do those series too. Sorry. But thank you, Wes, for all of the films that scared the hell out of me as a kid. I do appreciate it, and it gives me something to talk about today. Robert Englund is still going strong. Still looked at as the one and only Fred Krueger. He portrayed him 8 times in the series. Now, the 2010 remake had Jackie Earle Haley play Freddy, and Robert Englund wasn't even cameoed in the movie at all. Didn't show up anywhere. Not even like in the Evil Dead series, where like the new Evil Dead had Bruce Campbell as a cameo in the end. Robert Englund didn't get that credit. So everybody kind of trashed that movie because of what it was and the fact that they didn't bring any mainstay characters from the original, you know, movies in the series to go in that movie. So they kind of just went off a whim, tried to gain off the success of Nightmare on Elm Street, and failed miserably. So hopefully in the future, Robert Englund will brush off the hat, the sweater, and the glove and actually come back and portray Freddy either one more time, or at least I could always see if they ever did a Nightmare on Elm Street remake that Robert Englund played Freddy's dad. Like, that would be a kind of cool concept. But that being said, the movie came out in 1984. It's been a while that it's been out, of course, obviously. But I still enjoy watching it. I'll still put it in from time to time and check it out, along with the other movies in the series. Now, I have my favorites, but Nightmare on Elm Street being the mainstay, the first one of the series, still 2 thumbs up. So thank you, Wes Craven. Thank you, Robert Englund. Thank everybody that took part in the movie. Heather Langenkamp, who actually came back and portrayed Nancy Thompson 2 other times, being in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and in Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which was the only other movie that he actually directed and took part in, even though he wrote a script for the 3rd movie, Dream Warriors, and didn't really, only certain parts got taken out of it and put in the movie. He actually did do Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and that was kind of a reimagining of Freddy Krueger. And that one, everybody that I've talked to and a lot of people have actually said that that's one of their favorites, because it was more of a geared towards the kids that were scared when they watched it, and then when they were becoming adults, they actually watched New Nightmare, and it was almost like a new love for the series. Like, it actually kind of like breathed new life into it. But there is another thing that I wanted to speak on. There is a documentary called Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy, that actually goes and dabs more deeply into every single movie. It's about an 8-hour documentary, and it goes through each movie and the TV series. So if you get a chance, check that out. But if you enjoyed this, kind of not even like a rant, but more or less just kind of like an overview, like I said, I know that pretty much everybody has seen Nightmare on Elm Street, and if you haven't, again, why? but a lot of people have actually seen this movie, so I don't really need to tell you what happens in the movie. Pretty much everybody knows, because everybody's at least seen it bits and pieces or the whole movie multiple times. But if you did like it, go ahead and go to the Amazon affiliate in the link below and check out the Elm Street Legacy, Never Sleep Again, and Nightmare on Elm Street, the 1984 version, because that's the only one that's worth watching. As far as that, don't go for the 2010 remake. Don't do it. If you're smart like I know you are, don't do it. Don't. It's a waste of money. I'm kidding. It's a nightmare movie. If you want to check it out, go ahead. You know how there's spoiler alerts? This is a warning. Don't do it. But anyways, don't forget to hit up our Patreon and sign up for that. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and our Twitter account. Don't forget to check out republicofthegeek.com. And if you're really feeling like saying anything, like if you have any words of, how you felt about the movie or what it did, or if the time in your life that, if you remember back that far when you were, like, what you were doing or how your life was going at the time when you watched that and it literally scared the hell out of you, but then made you a bigger fan of the horror genre. Like, comment in the section below. Let me know. If you have any movies that you would like me to review, or anything for that matter that's retro that you'd like me to take part in and kind of give my 2 cents on, go ahead and comment that as well. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.